All right, there you go.
Awesome. I just want to make sure that I'm able to share that I have. Okay, just I do. Um, hey, my name's Jennifer Reyes. I'm from Prosper, Portland. I use pronouns like she and they. I'm one of the program managers for the Inclusive Business Resource Network that actually funds this boot camp for folks that are in Portland. And I'm just going to go through some of the additional services that are available to those of you that are in the city of Portland. I know maybe not all of you are, but most of you are. And these are all available through referrals. So Carrie or Jill can refer you to these services, but they are all by referral. So just a FYI on that. I've also sent over this presentation over to Carrie to share with you all afterwards. But we'll go through it and then we'll have plenty of time for questions throughout or at the end. All right. So let me go ahead and share. All right. Can everyone still see can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Very good. So like I said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Inclusive Business Resource Network, or also IBRN for short, and some of the offerings that we have for you via referrals. So this is IBRN at a very high level glance. We formed in 2017. We're currently on a 5-year grant with all of our partners that are listed on the right, including Thai Oregon. And we were formed to serve those that are typically underserved or underrepresented in the small business community. We provide one-on-one technical assistance or through cohorts. And we also have all of our partners that are available for additional services. So lots of times after folks go through the boot camp, they'll be referred to one of our other partners to continue some work with small business services, or they'll also be referred to one of our professional services providers. And that's mainly what I'm going to talk about today. Um, so the idea of IBRN is that you're not just here for the boot camp, you're actually here for a long term, like for a few years as you build your journey as a small business owner and entrepreneur. So this is just an example of some of the things that we have seen folks do after being in the program for a couple of years. And it's pretty amazing to see some of the folks that go from an idea to full-blown product on a shelf in less than a year. Have seen that happen. I just had a cannabis business owner last week who came to us in November and literally just had an idea and already has packaged products branded on shelves. And it's all to do with all of the people that he's been referred to within our network. So in this particular example, this is a food entrepreneur, and they decided that they wanted a culturally specific business advisor. So they went to Northwest Native Chamber, one of our partners. They started to receive business advising. Northwest Native Chamber referred them to one of our professional services referrals, which is Portland Community College and their Small Business Development Center. And they took a class called Getting Your Recipe to Market, which is all about just what it sounds like, getting your recipe to market. And then we also have another professional service, Vibrant Future, that does capital advising. So what that is he can actually work with you to figure out if you're eligible for loans yet, what loans might be good for you as a small business, as well as he can also do some forecasting and modeling for you as well. So if you're looking for help with any of those things, that's a good referral. In this particular example, after that, they start working with Hacienda, another one of our partners. They focus on food support for small businesses. So that's their main focus, is doing business advising for businesses that are in the food and beverage world. They create their product. And if you've heard of My People's Market, that's one of our other programs here at Prosper. They will get a space in My People's Market. There's new seasons is often there looking for new things to get on their shelves. And during that time, they're like, you know what? I need to figure out my pitches kind of like you guys are now, and does the Thai boot camp. They make their pitch to New Seasons, and with the help of Built, another one of our partners, they get on the shelf at New Seasons. And then from there, they go into a program called Increase Project that another one of our partners, Livelihood Northwest, runs. And that's about a year-long project to do intensive 3-year strategic programming. So we have seen people go through a journey like this through this program over the years. And we just like to share with folks like all the different touch points that are possible. And this isn't even all of our partners. So depending on what your business is, there's lots of opportunities for y'all to get some more services after the boot camp. So I'm going to tell you about our professional services that are financially related. So we have 3 different ones. One of them I already named, Vibrant Future. And then we also have Livelihood Northwest. They provide open accounting. So like if you already have an accounting system and you just need some help, you can do some one-on-one advising with that. Or if you need bookkeeping to begin with, because you don't have any yet, you can also do intro to bookkeeping. And they also do QuickBooks training series if you're looking for that. And all of those are low to no cost. So I think the highest cost might be $50, whereas if you weren't getting referred through the network, it might be a few hundred. And then if any of you are is anybody a cannabis small business or cannabis adjacent? I don't see anybody. All right. So I'm not going to talk about new project, but if you were a cannabis business, they do specific cannabis bookkeeping, which is very different than traditional bookkeeping. So if you know someone that needs that, we have that too. And then, as I mentioned, we have Vibrant Future, Robin Wang, who does open office hours. So you can just meet with him and talk with him and see if what he is providing is going to be a good fit. And then financial modeling and forecasting, as I also mentioned, and then non-cannabis capital and loan preparation. Any questions about these professional services? Okay, I'm seeing no. I feel like it always.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Oh.
How long do they last for?
So all of these can be as long as you need them for. So as long as you're still getting business advising from either Ty or one of our other partners, they can refer you to these folks. Most of the things with livelihood, like the bookkeeping workshops or like the training series, those are time bound. But the one-on-one accounting, typically it's a few visits to get you on your way. All of these things are meant to show you how to do this, not to do it for you. So just keep that in mind. And then with Robin, it really depends on what you're doing. Lots of times, if you're doing loan preparation, you might work with him for 6 to 8 months. Whereas with the financial modeling and forecasting, that's probably more like a 6 to 8 week engagement. Great question. Any other questions? All right. So the other professional services that we have, I already talked about PCC. So we offer business course scholarships for the following classes. So we have the business design series. That's actually a new class. It's 4 weeks long. If you're a brand new business owner, you don't have an LLC yet, you don't have anything yet, it's a really great class to take. Right now, if you get a referral, their next class starts on May 30th. It's all virtual. It's only for 4 weeks. We're waiving the registration fee. So you can actually take that 4-week class 100% for free. It just goes through the real basics of setting up your business. Then after that, the kind of like the next class that you would take after that is Business Builders. That's actually a semester-long course. The next one isn't offered until the fall. And that also has a spoke depending, so like the last 4 weeks are specific to whatever service type industry you're in. So whether you're in a service industry, or maybe a food industry. So it's all industry specific, and they're adding more industries as they go. Still TBD if they're going to have a few extras in the fall, but a really good class. We have a lot of people that go through that. Getting your recipe to market, as I mentioned a few slides ago. And then there's also the advanced small business management, which is kind of like you've been in business for a while. You're just really kind of looking to do those next steps of growth. And that's where the advanced small business management comes in. So business builders, getting your recipe to market, and advanced small business management are all a semester long or longer. So the advanced small business management is actually is 2 semesters. but it's more like a cohort, kind of like this group is, that you meet and work together for a long period of time. The second thing that we have, and we just brought this on board, is that we do have legal services again. They are subsidized, so we don't, we're no longer pay for the whole thing. Basically, you can get up to 4 hours of services for $1,000. IBRN will pay 500 and you pay 500. So the things that we do that are included in this are like complex entity formation. So that would be like maybe you're setting up an S corp with multiple owners, or maybe you're going to have like 3 co-founders. Anything that's like more than one person, or if you're transferring something to someone else, anything like that. If you're just setting up a basic LLC, your business advisor should be able to help you with that. You can figure it out on your own for the most part. And then any contract or drafting reviews, lease agreement reviews, which is a little bit different. We're actually paying for that by the page because they can be very, very long. So if you're looking into leasing a space, that model is a little bit different, but it's still up to $1,000. And then any employment related issues. So maybe you have like 1099 contracts that you want to make or something like that once you start hiring your first employees. Then last but not least, and this is changing a little bit, it's still available for the rest of this fiscal year, which is through the end of June. So Accelerate Women has a digital marketing coaching pool. So this is for businesses that have an existing web presence. So they have to have at least a website or an active Instagram page or some kind of social media that is active and has been around for a little bit. And then they can give you some like coaching, and it's only for, I think it's 3 hours. So they can do coaching around content creation, like how you would do that, or some tips on what you might want to do. SEO, any analytics for your website. If you're selling something online, they can coach you on e-commerce. And then they can also do some road mapping for you when you're building your website if you don't have a website yet. So that is limited. So if that's something that you're interested in, it would need to be soon. So you can definitely talk to Carrie or Jill about that. So those are all of our professional services that we have. If you know someone who would be interested in any of these things, or working with one of our other partners, or maybe they want to go through the boot camp themselves, these are the eligibility requirements to be an IBRN client. So you need to have a current home or business address in the city of Portland. You need to have less than 50 employees, which I think most people are solopreneurs or under 5 employees. You have to be registered with the city of Portland as well as the state of Oregon. And you do have to complete an intake form, which I think a lot of you actually have done for Ty. So that's the only other thing that they have to do, and sign the terms and conditions of the intake, such as taking surveys, etc. So that's all I really have for you all. I wanted to leave time for questions because there always seems to be a few about things, and we can also go back and look at some of the things, and I can talk about them in deeper detail if needed. So I'll open it up for questions. All right. Well, sounds like there isn't any. So I know after the boot camp is over, Carrie or Jill will meet with you one-on-one and talk about the things that you might be interested in. They will send out this same presentation to you, so you have it, so you can kind of look through it a little bit more and see what you're interested in, and then they can make those referrals for you at the end of the boot camp. Jill, was there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I'm just checking my email from Carrie to make sure I'm not missing anything.
And I can forward it to you as well if for some reason she did not get it to you.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, I will. I'll do that as soon as I'm off of the phone here.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it, Jennifer.
Yeah, I was like pretty quick, pretty easy. I usually do this with like really long one, and it's easier to just do a short version. And then if you have more questions, you can always reach out to me. And I will put my email address in the chat, but really you'll want to talk to Carrie or Jill and get a referral. But if you have questions about one of the specific services, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. No one has questions?
All right,
Okay.
well, I will be one of your pitch judges next week. So I look forward to listening to your pitches and meeting y'all in person and learning about all the things that you're going to sell and become millionaires for in a short period of time. All right, have a good one. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, everyone. Do you know what? I thought that was going to take a lot longer. So I'm checking in with Carrie to see when our next guest is signing in. One second. What was Sarah Walton with Team Creation? Okay. I don't know when she's actually going to sign in. So it looks like you guys were supposed to work on competitive slide, competition slide on Monday. Does anyone want to share what they've done? Can I tell
share.
someone? Okay. All right, Ben, do you want to share?
Yes. Okay, yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay, yeah, if y'all could see this, this is the competitive landscape slide I put together so far. So combination of the value proposition, listing a few of my closest competitors, and then what I was doing is, because this app is telling historical stories about the places around you, kind of a map-based app, I took it's kind of an overlap of these 4 different ways travelers are currently accessing information. So you have like traditional in-person guides or guidebooks, audio tour apps that are more popular that I've seen. There are a few AI-generated kind of text tour apps, and then other like self-guided, just using Wikipedia or Google Maps to learn about the places around you as you're going. So what I was trying to do here is highlight kind of how Storydex is a little bit of all these things, but how it's highlighting, I guess, the value proposition compared to each of these options. So it's has the audio tour, for example, but it works everywhere and it's not just static tours, or it uses AI generated text, but it provides links and references to reliable content that you can cite as a user, that kind of thing. So that was kind of my strategy for pitching this, and I'll have a better way of presenting it by next week, I think.
That's great. Did you come across like any surprising resources or facts while doing this research?
A lot of the research was related to what I did last week, where I typed in my interview questions into Reddit, and I just found a whole lot of people having conversations about how they discover places and learn about things as they're traveling. And so those people were recommending to each other, like the Rick Steves audio guide, which I had never heard of before, like Voice Map, or some people were pitching their own kind of AI tours, things like that. So I think that was really helpful, just hearing like exactly what those people themselves are recommending. And so I have a lot of those quotes now that I think I want to add in to the deck for next week to kind of like have my target audience kind of speak for themselves as to what they want and build that into the pitch.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I'm happy to go next, Jill.
Thanks, George. Our next guest is joining at 6, so we have some time.
Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Not yet. There we go.
All right. So this is my competition slide, and what you're seeing on the left side are the various businesses and the features on the x-axis, but I'm going to go ahead and switch that around because I think I have more features and less competitors. But at the top, we've got Astro Parks, which the market and the focus is going to be on mixed use, which is where a parking lot is essentially has designated use during the day and then undesignated use in the evening, and is typically closed off to potential parkers. As for the hardware, the two pieces of hardware that I'm working on currently are cameras and meters. And the thing that's helpful about meters is that they are easy to interact with and they exist in front of people and they provide clear indicators. So that's one of my differentiators. As for payments, payments being accepted at these meters is slightly different than some of my other competitors as well. And the one thing that I've realized is the largest differentiator is the ability to broadcast availability of parking lots in real time. So making it clear and obvious to different customers that parking is available. And what this can enable is successful reservations in especially high demand locations. So if someone reserves a space, they can go ahead and reduce or indicate that the space is reserved on a meter.
Julian, you have a question? Oh, I think you're muted.
No, I was just putting my hand up to present if it's time.
Oh, to show your slide.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
So that's where I'm at. I think it was a good experience. What I did realize is that it's a very competitive space. I looked on Crunchbase, I believe, is one of the websites that I used, and there are over 365 different competitive companies in the parking management landscape. And a lot of them are multi-billion-dollar companies that are working closely in mergers and acquisitions that are live and private equity deals and other spaces, which means that it's going to be hard to gain market, and I have to be very clear and specific about which market I'm targeting.
And did you find, or did you change any of your competitive advantage from doing this research?
Yeah, hugely. I think like I've been kind of advised not to go into hardware because it's expensive. But I think that it is one of my sole competitive advantages is the ability to build into infrastructure that works for people with apps, people without apps, people with electric cars, people with autonomous cars. I think it's really, really important. And I think before I started this, I didn't have anything about availability real time and kind of transparency through to both drivers and property management owners. And I think that is probably the most important aspect, the major differentiator.
Great. Thanks, George.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, Julian.
Sharing.
I'm letting in Sarah. One sec. I'll let her know. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
We're reviewing some homework from Monday, but
Perfect.
get started in a few minutes.
My competitors, basically standard glass windows, Anderson, and the like. The glass windows that are very efficient and tinted. Liquid view, which is a virtual window. Ballistic glass windows and twist windows. And I just compared various attributes of what the Quist window can provide versus the other windows viewpoint, which refer to the glass window. You're limited to the point of view. The liquid view, it's a simulated view of something else somewhere. And Quist window, the plan is to provide point of view, alternative real views, as well as simulated views.
Great, thanks, Julian. And did you have a slide, or were you intending to share your screen?
Oh, I tried. I guess I didn't.
That's okay.
It
If you just
didn't
want to
really
pop it
drop
up
any.
real quick.
I could try again. Yeah.
Did Carrie run the last session on competition analysis?
Yeah, she did.
Okay,
It was with, I forget what his name was, but we had someone come in and talk to it.
okay.
No, for sharing this time.
I see it now. Okay, yep.
Yep.
It looks good. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to share?
I can share
Whatever.
mine.
Yeah, sure.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. If you want to
Okay.
zoom in a little bit, that'd be helpful. Like bottom right. Oh,
Oh. Alright.
or you can do presenter view, whatever is easier for you.
Is good.
Yep, that's better.
Alright.
So talk us through this.
Okay, so the way I did this, I went through the category of devices. The product that we're building is essentially two products. A product to rapidly test solar panels to figure out if we can reuse them or not, and also to monitor these second life solar panels for safety reason and stuff. So what I did, I looked at the test, the device that are available for testing. Those are like drones, PV testing equipment that exist. Those are very expensive. Like those drones are really, really expensive. Even this test equipment can cost like some of them can cost like $30,000. And then they only do for detection. And then these are for testing, these are for monitoring. Right now, we have microinverters. They have some capability to do rapid shutdown. This is a safety regulation. Some of them will do testing partially, but not fully. Some of them will do power optimization, and then they operate continuously. And then there's devices that are uniquely for power optimization, and some of those one will do the things that we do, like safety compliance, like rapid shutdown. And then we have the same price level that's around $30 to $40. So this is set. We do rapid shutdown. We do rapid testing and fault detection. we do not do power optimization, and also is a device that continuously monitor the system. And then these are rapid shutdown devices uniquely, and then they're kind of cheaper, but all they do is just rapid shutdown continuously. So so this is how we didn't go by company, we just went by category of device that exists in the market.
Mhm. One consideration, I would say, for your the qualities of each product, it just looks better and it's a better argument if you can say your product has all of the above, you know, it can beat in cost, shutdown detection, operation. If it doesn't beat on the power optimization, maybe X that and put in something where you would be seen as a leader.
Okay.
If
Yeah,
I don't know
that-
if there's something that you could fit in that category, but just
Yes, I think I forgot his name, the guy who lead the session last Monday. He just told us like sometimes you don't have to like have like all green to feel like, you
true.
know, my device is perfect and stuff. So that's what, but
Uh
yeah, makes sense too.
yes, and oh, Nicholas. Yeah.
Nicholas, yeah.
And you know, whatever he said should be just fine, but that was just my opinion.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sarah, do you want to take it away?
Sure.
Thanks
let
for
me-
joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I also have been told that this is a chatty group. So I hope that that rings true because that's always more fun. So I look forward to, are you guys seeing the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just introduce myself real quick. Unless Jill, did you already talk about who I am and why I'm here?
I did not.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, my name is Sarah Walton, and I am sort of a corporate warrior, sort of entrepreneur. Spent 15 years in the leadership ranks in corporate America, between Target and Nike, and left about 4 years ago, and built a leadership development company. So we work with small businesses, big businesses, government, nonprofit, sort of everybody around teaching people how to lead. And that's not manage. It's how can we all show up in our lives and at work more as leaders. So I'm here today to talk about team building. This is something I have a lot of experience with. Not only have I built a team at Bettermeant, there's 9 of us right now. But at Nike, I think I hired over 100 people. And so lots of experience building teams. And so I'm here to talk about team building. Please ask questions, make this interactive. The last thing any of us want to do at night is stare at boxes on a screen with no dialogue. So please jump in at any point in time. My style is very casual. So I am ready to take questions if and when they come. And if I'm going to address it later, I'll just say, hey, hold on, we're going to get to that. Sound good? All righty.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about the team that we have here today. So all of you guys are thinking about the companies that you're building and these ideas that you have, but I want you to understand that you actually have a team today. We'll talk about what that looks like. I'll share lessons learned in hiring. So both hiring for my company, but also hiring for other people's companies. Some non-traditional approaches. So maybe things you're already thinking about as you build your business, maybe what to look for. And maybe if it's not a traditional sort of W-2 employee, what are other ways that you could build out a team? And then, okay, great, Sarah, what do we do with this information? Sound good? Alrighty, so I want you to, if you have a piece of paper in front of you, I'm going to have you do some activities. So if you're computer people, you can do it on your screen. If you're pen and paper people, grab a piece of paper and a pen. So I want you to first, before you read the slide, I want you to take a second and I want you to write between 0 and 10 how confident you are leading and running your business. So 0 being not at all, oh my God, I wish somebody else would have come up with this idea. 10 being like, got it in the bag. Okay. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about confidence, because this is one thing that, like, as we enter into this leadership role, there's so many things that are going to make us insecure, right? We got to go ask people for money. We got to present our idea relative to the competition. Ours has to be better. We got to get people to come give up their jobs and come work for us. And so the thing about confidence is we think that once we reach a certain thing, we'll be confident. Once I achieve this thing, once I get money, once I have a buyer, once I have sold X amount, like I'll achieve it. So it's being more impressive, being smarter, being better, knowing things. But what actually makes us more confident is if we know our purpose. So we understand who we are, what we want to get out of the world. We understand what we're afraid of, right? And we talk about what motivates us, and we're aware of that. We know what we're good at, and we know what we're not good at, and we're not afraid to tell people that. And then we know how to keep ourselves safe. So if I were to come to you with a crazy idea, like we should rob a bank, right? How many people here would be like, I'm in, Sarah. I will rob a bank with you. Oh, we've got some bank robbers. Interesting. Eric is definitely in. I saw Stefano is in. So if we believe the sort of fallacy of the left of this slide, then those of you who didn't raise your hand, if you were just better at bank robbing, if you knew more about bank robbing, if you sort of were more impressive at bank robbing, would you be more confident to raise your hand to join me? So why not? Why wouldn't you join me? Even if you knew everything about bank robbing and you were better at a bank robber, why wouldn't you join me?
If I don't believe the cause.
Right? Like maybe it's not aligned with your values. Maybe you're a better person than I am at. Adama? Is it Adama?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Adama. So Adama's clearly a better person than me because he said it doesn't align with my values. Right? So again, we can know everything, but if it doesn't align with our values, then we're not going to be confident at doing it. So before we talk about building the team, I want us to first start with this idea that like you actually already have a team. So like you sitting in the chair are the team. And I hear so many people talk about taking care of the future team. As soon as I get a person, like we're going to have perks. I want to cover health insurance. I want to give time off, right? I want to be balanced. I want to be values aligned. But like with the person sitting in the founder seat, do people often think that about themselves or give themselves that grace? Right? It's like as soon as I get there, things will change. Well, why don't we start building it in the way that's sustainable, in the way that people want to come work for us because it's awesome, right? Versus it's going to be awesome when. So we're going to start tonight in an unconventional place. And Carrie let me do this last time and it was a lot of fun. So we're going to do this where we're going to start talking about the team that's already here. So everybody who's sitting in the chair today. And then we're going to talk about the people that we're going to go get to add to our team. But if we don't figure out the team that we have, then oftentimes we never get to the place where we get to go get the team. Sound good? All right. So what I'm going to talk about, this is one of our, so we do a lot of coaching. We do a lot of coaching of business owners and founders and CEOs, and all the way down to people who are just starting their jobs. And one thing is true across all of those people is nobody is super confident. Everybody has doubts. Everybody has worries. Everybody has, or they're a sociopath, right? Those are the only two options. So it's very normal to have trepidation, to have fears. And so I want to share with you a way that we can work through them. And we're going to process some stuff before we talk about building the team. Okay, so first, the growth model, there's 4 phases. So what we see is our self-awareness. So I see the world, you and I, we might look at the same thing and you might see green and I might see blue. And so this is what our information gets taken in through our eyes. So we need to be aware at how we see the world. So you could see the world as a big, scary place where everybody could fail. I could see the world as a big opportunity where everybody can succeed. Do you think the next step we take is going to be different if we have those different perceptions? Okay, so what we see in the world influences what we believe about the world. So if I see myself as somebody who is awesome in a certain area, then I might start to believe that I can do things. If I see myself as somebody who has deficiencies in a certain area, I might start to believe that I can't do certain things. Then that influences what we feel. So I think about it, eyes, brain, heart. So what we feel about ourselves is influenced by what we thought about ourselves, is influenced by the way we saw the world, right? Or saw ourselves in the world. And then that influences what actions we take or what we become, right? So like, I'll give you, if I think about myself as somebody who's afraid to fail, I see the world through a series of things that I could fail at. What I start to believe is that I can only do things that I can be good at, right? So I'm not a good swimmer. I'm not built like a swimmer. I'm more of a runner. So I start to believe I see the world as a place that I can fail. I don't want to fail. So I start to believe things like, well, I can't do a triathlon because I can't swim. Right? Then I start to feel like anxious and trepidation if my friends are like, we should all do a triathlon. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Right? But I don't know how I got to feeling like I can't do that because this is all subconscious. And then I don't sign up for the triathlon. My friends do it. They have a lot of fun and I regret not signing up. Right? So again, personal example, but there's a million work examples. So when we feel a certain way, we need to check in and work backwards. So what we're going to do here tonight is if you can learn how to manage yourself, your feelings, ups and downs, entrepreneurial journey is really fun, but it's also really crazy. It's really hard. And so if you can manage yourself throughout this journey, then like there are kind of no bad days, right? Because you can manage the highs and you can manage the lows. And then as you build yourself out, as you grow, as you scale health as a leader, and you take care of all the people underneath you instead of you scale as an insecure leader and then they come in and we're competitive and sort of all the toxic behavior ensues. So we're going to talk about this each step because I know this is pretty abstract right now, but it's going to make sense as we sort of do the activities going throughout. Any questions before I jump to the next one? You guys are like, it's 6 p.m., lady. All right, let's talk about self-awareness. So has anyone here done the Enneagram? Does anyone know what that is?
What
No?
did you say,
Yeah,
Sarah?
Eric has. Has anyone here done the Enneagram?
Enneagram.
So Ben has, George has, a couple people. Okay, so we're not doing the Enneagram here today, but I find it to be an incredibly helpful self-awareness tool because it talks about fear and it talks about motivation. So there's a lot of other assessments that talk about personality. But like when we're leading and running a business, like personality is not really the thing that we're focused on. We're focused on every day when we wake up, we are motivated by something and we are afraid of something. And those are usually the same side of the different side of the same coin, right? So as an entrepreneur, fear can be an incredible motivator, but so can motivation. And so we're going to talk about Enneagram conceptually, but everybody's just going to choose one. I'm not handing out assessments here. Okay, so I'm going to show these numbers. So it's numbers 1 through 9. Think about this like a rough estimate of you. So there's a lot of people who are like, I see myself as 1 and 4 and 8. And it's like, yes, for sure. But like you would live and die by one of these. And so let's just choose that one. So let's take a second, read through all of them. And then you should probably have 2 that feel more like you if you're really honest with yourself. And then I'm going to go to the next slide and we're going to whittle it down to 1. Okay, so I'll be here if you have questions, but read through these. Try to choose 2 that resonate the most. Interesting. Lots of 8s, couple 7s. Oh, that's from earlier. Just kidding. Okay. Has everybody read through? Have a couple? Okay. So now I'm going to talk to you about the fear and the motivation of each type. So now you should be able to be like, 7 sounded super cool and fun, but like, that's not my fear. And that's not my motivation. Or you're like, yep, that's absolutely me. Okay. And if you're having a hard time placing yourself, just raise your hand and we can work through it together. And I guarantee it will help somebody else place themselves. And then we'll talk about why this matters. Okay, does everyone feel like you kind of have one? Heavy 5-4 group. Okay, so how do we think? So let's take the 5s. Okay, so picking on those of you that at least want to be picked on in a 5. Okay, so if a 5 wakes up every day wanting to be capable and competent and know things, how do you think that helps you or hurts you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainties. It's just kind of a new thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it's like there's a lot of uncertainties and so I want to process through them. Right. And I want to learn more and I want to read and I want to understand. And maybe I move a little slower as a result of that. Or maybe I get stuck needing to know more and I don't move to the next step. Right. But then maybe I even launched this thing and I signed up to be a part of this group because I know a lot about a subject. So I feel pretty confident. So it's both helping me and making my life a little more difficult.
Yeah. Also, maybe they want to do everything themselves.
Yeah.
Might be hard to
High amount of
delegate.
competence, right?
Yeah.
I'm used to doing things for myself.
Or also over reliance on other people, putting your trust in them because you feel like they know more than you do. So you kind of take that step back, feeling you can't make that decision.
Yes. They're the expert. I'm going to rely on them. 6 months goes by and it's like, oh my gosh, shoot, I shouldn't have relied on them so much because we haven't actually gotten to where we need to get to. So I should have been in control. Yeah. Okay, so now how does a 5, if knowing that I'm a 5, when I wake up every morning, how do you think I see the world? How does this color my perception?
Hurricanes, a
Sorry, what was that,
challenge
Julian?
to be overcome.
A challenge to be overcome, yeah. Something I can learn about, right? Like I see the day as an opportunity, another book I can read, an article I can listen to, a podcast, like thirst for information, right? Now let's take a 4. So let's juxtapose the 4. So a 4 wants to be understood, wants to be unique. Their desire is to be somebody who's sort of an individualist, right? But then they're afraid that they'll be misunderstood. They'll never amount to the things that they want to amount to. So how do you think that helps or hurts the entrepreneurial journey for them?
I think in the quest of like searching, they can sometimes get lost from doing their their tasks that they have to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. And there's a little bit of that, what is it that's the focus? Because sort of I'm so interested in taking lots of tangents. Like fours are very creative, right? So getting lost in tasks can sometimes be an issue. Fours can also feel like their problems are theirs, right? So like nobody understands, my business problems are unique. Like, you know, I can be in this group, but like really like I have this unique challenge, right? Which can be kind of isolating for an entrepreneur, right? So a 5 might reach out and a 4 might reach back. Okay, so again, we're not here to psychoanalyze each other, but knowing that even just the 4 and the 5, they seem pretty different, right? Just like how we wake up, eat our cereal every morning, see the world, there's going to be differences in the way that we approach it. And that's awesome. That is like, there's no type that's a good entrepreneur. It's not like, oh, everybody here who's not an X, you can get off the line because your business isn't going to be successful. They're all good. But to know that like it colors the way that we see the world, you might be looking through yellow lenses and I'm looking through blue. And so knowing this about ourselves, do you think it helps?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so if we know this about ourselves, then we're like, oh, I'm doing that thing again, right? Like George can say, I'm doing the George thing. I'm doing the thing where I am not doing the task because I'm so creative about all the other stuff. I just need to get the task done. Or as we think about building out a team, it's like, ooh, who do I need to go hire? And maybe it's not another mini me. Maybe it's somebody who's really good at thinking about something in a different way or seeing the world through a different lens. Right. And so again, this is helping us not go to that place of, oh, I can't believe I did that again. Or I can't believe I can't figure this out. Or why am I so stuck on this thing? Why do I keep reading the podcast and never launch the website? But we can go to that place and say, like, I'm going to need to feel like I need to know more before I can go out there and sell my business, talk about my brand. And knowing that about ourselves, we can respond differently, right? Okay, so that's what this is meant to do. So I want you to take a second and I want you to write down something for yourself based on this fear, based on this motivation. I'll go back to the page so you can see them. Based on the number that you chose, what's one thing that you're going to help yourself be more aware of? The way that you're going to see the world, right? So for me, I'm a 7. So if you go back, 7s love new things. 7s created FOMO. But like 7s don't want negativity. So for me, I always work on, it's okay to have things. So I'm the one that's like, it's okay, we'll figure it out. Like business is great, we got the thing. And like some people are like, oh my God, like it's fine. If we didn't win the deal, just tell us, right? Like stop making everything like sunshine and rainbows, right? So my work is, it's okay to be negative. It's okay to be like, man, that really sucked. I was really excited about that. We didn't win the RFP. Like that was a bummer, right? And so that's my reminder to myself. If I'm too happy for too long, I'm like, I don't think I'm being real. So that's my reminder. So take a second, write down a reminder that you have for yourself. And we're going to put this on a sticky note or somewhere where you see it, where it's not about a flaw. You're not bad. This is just a reminder to yourself that you got to take care of your team. Team 1.
Can you remind me the question again?
Yeah, so write down something, some piece of advice for yourself, some goal for yourself based on what you just learned. So if you're a 4, maybe it's to seek help when you feel like you have problems instead of to go inward, right? And feel like nobody will understand them. You'll be misunderstood, right? As a 5, maybe it's to figure out how to like put your pencils down and like launch. Right? There's no more books, no more podcasts, like at some point in time. And so a prompt could be, is this a pencils down moment? Right? And a reminder to me throughout the day, like I look at that and I'm like, is this a pencils down moment? Feel free to come off mute if you're struggling with coming up with one. We can, yeah, I need more info. It's a great one. And it's like, all need more info. I will always need more info. And so again, as you think about building out a team, it's a really great place to start. Hi, I'm Eric. I'll need more info. Right? Like it's not you not telling me things. I'm just somebody who needs a lot of info. Right? I'm Sarah. I'll be really positive all the time. And you have to remind me that it's okay to not be so positive sometimes. Heaven's invented silver linings. Love it. All right, I'm going to jump to the next, but take a second. If you're struggling, we can come back to it. I'm happy to answer questions after or at any point in time. Okay, so now we understand the way that we see the world, because if I see the world as a sort of big, wonderful rainbow and unicorn place, then you imagine that like my brain gets full of big unicorn happy thoughts, right? And so that forms my beliefs. I believe everybody is good. I believe there's potential everywhere. I believe every rock can be overturned. So do you think I take on too much or too little?
Too much.
Too much, right? Because it's like, I believe I can fix anything, right? Because everything is possible. So how do you think that belief colors my world? It's a lot of fun, but it's also really important that I prioritize, right? If there's any other sevens, we could start a club. Okay, so now we talk about what we believe. Okay, so belief is a really, really powerful thing. So I want somebody to tell me a story. There's no right or wrong answer, but we look at this. Can anybody tell me a story? Don't all come off mute at the same time.
Is this a story about anything?
Anything. When you see these pictures, what popped into your mind?
It seems like two people were in love and unfortunately one got sick and then unfortunately passed away.
Okay, so George told us a very sad story. Did anybody come up with a different story?
Well, I think my story I look at it as there are different stages of life, that this is the story's telling us friendship, then maybe later in life, and then kind of end stage of life.
Yeah. So this is a practical story. We'll all die. It doesn't have to be positive or negative, right? These are the stages of life. It's a very practical story. Did anyone have a different story?
Two people holding each other's hand. They're kind of happy. Then they end up in the hospital, but they're still happy. They're still smiling. It's all right. It's going to be fine. And then one maybe left. We don't know. Did he die? Maybe just walked away. And then the last one, it's like, oh, look at his grave. That's it's not a good one, man. There's not even a name on it. There's not a photo. There's nothing, man. Where am I going to put those flowers?
I love it. So much detail and description in your story. I love it. So did anyone, so I'll tell you the real story. I went to the internet and I said, give me stick figure pictures. And then I got 3 stick figure pictures and I put them on a slide. And I asked you guys to tell me a story about that slide. But that's the story. Right? And so here's the thing about this is when you're shown 3 pictures, they could be completely unrelated. There was just 3 internet stick figure pictures. But putting them on a page, what does our brain try to do?
To connect the dots.
Connects the dots, tells the story, right? What's the stickiest? If you guys have talked about sales and you've talked about sort of thing, I guarantee you've talked about stories are sticky, right? If you want somebody to believe your thing, you got to tell them stories because they're going to remember the story. They're going to forget the facts, right? So our brain is wired to connect things together through story. So this is incredibly powerful because again, you guys all came up with a story. Whether you raised your hand or not, you told yourself a story. Very few people were like, there's 3 random things on a slide. Like you wanted to make sense of it. So our brain wants to make sense of information that comes in. So how many times do you think that we tell ourselves a story that may or may not be true? Just here, was this the only time this has ever happened? You guys just told a story that might not be true? Made a lot of assumptions.
Constantly, every second. Yeah.
Every second of every single day. So we might as well, now that we know that, like we might as well do something about it, right? Because this is how we form beliefs. I think I'm X. Because I do this, I tell stories over and over and over. Somebody's like, says a positive thing about me, I'm like, ooh, story. Somebody says a negative thing about me, I'm like, ooh, story. I want to connect disparate pieces to a story to either confirm a bias that I have about myself or to deny it. Okay, so knowing this, okay, so I have coached over 100 people. This is top of the organization, bottom of the organization, old, young, you name it. And here's what I've learned from all those coaching sessions. The piece of information that I would take away from all of those is the stories we tell shape our lives. So not the facts, not the experiences, not the things that everybody else thinks about us, not the truth, not what gets posted in the paper, not the awards on the shelf, the stories. And I talked to a group one time and I was telling them a story about one of my clients who's a CEO of a large company. And he was like, I'm so insecure. And he was like, AI, I've never done this. COVID was hard enough. And now AI, and I don't know what to do. And everyone's looking at me and expecting me to have the answers. And I don't know, but I don't think anyone else knows. So instead of pretending like I know and they know, why don't we just start talking about how no one knows? Instead of trying to hire experts and consultants who are literally only 10 days ahead. Like, why don't we just start talking about how we don't know and send a letter out to the company to say, I don't know. And you know what? Like, we need to all figure it out together. And instead of being afraid of it, let's embrace it. And instead of being worried about your job, let's figure it out together. And I was telling this story for an unrelated person, and the person at the end raised their hand and they said, thank you so much for telling me that a CEO of a large company is insecure. Because I've told myself a story that they aren't. So I kept thinking I'm insecure. And so I just have to get to a bigger company, a bigger job, and I'll stop being insecure. But the reality is I won't, because they're still insecure. So the story we tell ourselves is, well, once I arrive, everything will get better. Once I get the promotion, once I get the thing, once I get the first investor, once I have the first credit card, like everything will get different, but it won't. And so we have to start to shape our beliefs today. Okay, so power over our story. Because again, we can go back to the stick figures. We can tell whatever story we want. So I want you to write down stories that you tell yourself today. And they can be, I'm a bad chef, I'm a bad swimmer, or they can be like, I don't know what I'm doing. How on earth am I going to build a business? Right? Or they could be like, I'm amazing and awesome and incredible, and people are lucky that I'm here tonight. So whatever's on your mind, whatever stories you're telling yourself, let's just write down a couple. And again, if you're like, I'm not telling myself stories, like what beliefs do you hold? Okay, does everyone have at least one? Okay, if you need us to make up a story about you, we can. Okay, now I want you to look at each of those beliefs and I want you to think about what actions you are or aren't taking as a result of them. So if it's, I don't have enough experience to build a business, what aren't you doing as a result of that versus what are you doing as a result of that? Maybe you're reading more books and asking for more help, but maybe you aren't doing things you need to be doing. anyone want to share?
I can share. Mine is not a story, a belief. I believe that we have the power to create a feature.
Jillian, did you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I froze for a second.
Yeah. I believe that we have the power to create a feature that we believe in. I believe that work is what transmutes our belief to reality.
I love that. So what is that belief allowing you to do?
That belief is basically the story that I'm telling myself though.
Yeah. And that's enabling you to do what?
To have a clear vision on the action that I am gonna take.
Yeah. And so maybe that helps you when people are like, no, not this, think about this. You're like, I know what I'm doing. Clear.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Jillian, did I see you come off mute? Do you want to share?
Well, I kind of my lifetime story. I don't consider myself a good communicator or a social person.
Mhm.
So part of the things I've been working on is participating in this boot camp. Took some speech therapy here this year.
That's great.
Uh,
And Julian, it's like that challenging that when that sort of like, I call that head trash. It sort of mucks up our brain when we're like, oh, we're not social, like we're a bad communicator. Then it's like, is that really true? Because you're here, you're socializing. You could be sitting on your couch watching TV and you're here with us. Right? So is that really true? Or is it just maybe a little bit more comfortable, maybe or uncomfortable? Maybe it takes a little more energy. Right? Like
I
maybe
think it
it
takes
feels a
energy to
little
me. Yeah.
a little hotter, a little sweatier. But like we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of like exercise.
Yeah. I love it.
Emotionally, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. George.
Yeah, I think tell myself two things. One is I have a bad memory, and the other one is I don't have enough money. I have a bad memory. I'm trying to write stuff down, but I'm not doing a great job because I write it down in different places. So I'm working through that. And then I don't have enough money. I tried talking to a financial advisor to understand my actual financial position, which has helped me slightly worry less, but I still think that that's a common concern.
Yeah. So thank you, George. I love that. And I think like, again, what would have to be true? Right? That's a good exercise for you. What would have to be true for me to feel like I have enough? Right? Is it an amount of money in the bank? Is it amount of money that comes in? Is it that I don't have to think about payday? Like, and writing that down, because at some point in time you'll get there, but then the bar will move.
Yeah.
Right. And so we never have enough. If the story is we never have enough. So scarcity mindset versus a growth mindset, right? We believe in scarcity. We keep moving the goalposts, right? If we believe in growth, it's like, okay, I think about these milestones and I want to reach these, right? So when I started the business, I came from a big old salary at Nike, right? And I was like, I just want to cover my mortgage, right? That was like, it was like not feed my children, not feed myself, right? Like just cover my mortgage. That was like my thing. And then I got there and it's like, okay, I wanted my business to be able to like cover my, like, and it just was like one step at a time, but it always felt like I arrived. And then I set the new goal versus I want to replace my salary. I would have felt miserable for so long because that's a really hard thing to do. So many milestones. What would have to be true? What would I have to believe when I reach these things? Great. Go ahead, Eric.
As I'm making more sales, a story that I'm bumping up against is if I ask people for money, they will get angry at me.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the things where a lot of people have a hard time with sales. And especially in a business, like first people you might be selling to are friends and family, and you're like, I shouldn't charge them. right? But like maybe we tell ourselves a story they would want to pay, right? If they love us and they want to support our business, they don't want our stuff for free, right? They want to pay for it. And they would want us to feel like
stories rewire in my brain.
Yeah.
I want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, but it's like our stories will keep telling themselves until we tell them, right? And so we go back to the perception. If my head feels this way, gosh, I don't want to take people's money, right? I feel bad. I don't want them to have to pay for the thing. I go back to the perception. Is my perception that my thing isn't good enough, right? Is my perception that I'm not good enough? Is my perception that nobody else has enough money, right? Or is my perception that they're going to buy it from someone, they might as well buy it from me, right? My perception is I don't have a gun to their head. I'm not forcing them. There's no coercion. So they're buying it. They must want to buy it. Even if they don't like the product, but they want to support me, that's fine. I still want their money.
I'm gonna write something down.
Please. Okay, so do we start to understand now how powerful the thing between our ears is? And not just because it's our moneymaker, but it starts to help us understand like these stories that we tell ourselves in the entrepreneurial journey, they're going to be endless. And so you have to be able to rewrite themselves, especially if there's no other team, nobody looking at you in the face and being like, don't worry about it. That's okay. Like, we got this. Like, we got to be able to do this for ourselves. Okay. So what we believe. All right, let's move to the next step. Now, this is what we feel. So if what we see in the world, how we see the world influences how we think about ourselves and the world, then it influences how we feel about the world. So this is where anxiety comes from. This is where excitement comes from. This is where joy comes from. This is where we start to feel emotions as a result of the thinking that we're doing, right? So when Eric takes somebody's money and he feels bad, right? Because cognitively he's saying, I don't want to take their money because I don't deserve it, or they're only buying it because they feel like they have to, or we're telling ourselves some story here that's making us feel bad for taking it. Okay, so if we feel bad, we want to be able to rework and go back to saying, what perception am I telling myself? I'm telling myself that like my product's not good enough for them to pay for it. I'm telling myself I'm not worthy of their money. And so I feel angsty about taking their money. But if I tell myself my product's worth it, I tell myself they want to support me, then I feel great about taking their money. Right? Okay, so let's talk about how we influence feelings. So I want people to tell me what of these is the most important.
Family.
Family. Does anyone disagree with Julian?
Harmony.
Harmony. Okay, does anyone disagree?
Hope.
Hope. We know Eric's is money. I'm just kidding, Eric. No, the person whose competition isn't going to raise their hand, and the person whose money is also not going to raise their hand. I've done this enough times to know that. But you're out here somewhere, and we love you anyway. But the point is, does anyone know what these sort of represent? Starts with a V.
So values.
Values. Okay, so here's the thing about values, is if we don't have our own, we'll adopt somebody else's. So if we walk around every day and we don't have a set of values, we'll adopt a company that we work for as values, or we'll adopt the US values, or we'll adopt our cultural values, or our religious values, or our familial values, or maybe some values of some friends we shouldn't be hanging out with. Right? And so like we need to do this work for ourselves, because I can tell you the angst that you feel is usually when you're bumping up against one. Right? Eric's sitting here saying she's trying to make me so capitalistic, but like that's not my value. And that's going to be the friction point in the business. So getting comfortable with money and getting comfortable with that aspect of a business is an important piece, but also staying true to your values is an important piece as well. Eric, I'll stop teasing you about the money. But the point is we need our own We need our own set of values. And so again, for you, you're probably early enough in the business world that you haven't sat down and said, here are my company values. But I would tell you, we need to do that sooner rather than later. But today, I want us to think about our personal values, because again, right now, that's what matters, because we're talking about team of one, right? The original team. So I want you to take a second. I'm going to show you a page of words. And for some people, this is going to be impossible to get done in the time that I'm going to give you. And to some people, you're like, yep, got it, done. I feel great about it. Okay, so either is okay. Don't tell yourself a story if you don't get to it. So I want you to read these words, and I want you to write down the ones that you're like, yep, that one. Right? So every day I have mine. This is my set of values. I have them here and I stare at them every single day. You could quiz me with a blindfold. I know them, but I've been years in the making and I got the wrong ones for very, very many years. So take a look, take a second. I'll give you some silence, look through, try to get to 5-ish that just really resonate with you. And you're not a bad person. I have 2 kids and a husband and a loving family, but family is not a value of mine. Community is. So you're not a bad person if you don't have like health, family, and love. That's okay. Okay, so take a second. Thanks for sharing in the chat, you guys. If you want to share, no worries if you don't want to. Has anyone done a values exercise before? Do you think from time to time it changes? Yeah. So
Yeah.
mine changes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to rank. A lot of some of these kind of have overlapping
Yeah, it's hard.
points. I'd almost have to like go through this list and rank them, put through over and over again to whittle them down.
I want to just feed it into ChatGPT and tell me what my values are. Probably pretty close. Carly. Yeah, so for some people this is really easy. It's like I look at the words and I'm like, yep, got it. For some people it's like I'm gonna need to like take way more time. Sarah, you're asking me to do like a really big like life thing in like 3 minutes. It's not, I can't do it. That's okay. You can do it later. And the reality is, why are values helpful? Why do you think this helps us? Because remember, we're in this feeling space. So we learned about the way that we see the world. We learned about the stories that we're telling ourselves. And now we're in this feeling space. Why do you think values help us feel our way through the world?
I'd be more critical for this situation. Our pursuit is aligned with, or should be aligned with our values, and if they're not, then we might not get well with sincere or real. I don't.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're going to get a lot of advice, some that you're looking for, some that you're not looking for in the business world. And it's like, sometimes you're just going to hear things that are like, I would never do that. That is not aligned with who I am. Right? Like I remember somebody was like, oh, you pay your people too much. And I'm like, cool. I'd love to be known for that. Right? And that's like very in line with my values versus being like just another like capitalistic turn to the people. Right? But like somebody else sitting here might be like, I want to get the lowest possible rate so that I can invest my money somewhere else. That's cool. That doesn't make you a bad person and me a good person or vice versa, but it's just like we have different values. So this is what you have to keep looking back to when you feel like you're getting advice, it doesn't really fit, you feel like you're maybe off course, you're like, am I really going to quit my job and do this thing full time and I'm going to like put everything into this venture? It's like, you got to come back to this. Right? And I remember when I was deciding to leave Nike or to not leave Nike, I kept saying, am I crazy? Like I have this like big job at like one of the most desirable companies in the world. And like, I like am thinking about quitting. Right? I have a good performance rating. I have all this stock and I would quit. Like, am I crazy? And I remember the day that I woke up and was like, you know what? I have somebody else's dream job. But it's not my dream job. But it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person for not wanting this job. But like, I should probably go get my dream job. And so again, values helped me do that, helped me figure that out. And I think without strong values, I would have been really lost in that because every single person I talked to was like, yes, you are crazy. You should not do that. You should not leave that job. Right? But I knew, and my husband knew, that it was like, you should do something that really lights you up. And I do. So values, do them for yourself, do them for your company, even though you're like, but I don't even have a company. I have an idea. I have a thought. I'm building it. It's like, great. What are the values? Because as you go and you start talking about it and you tell people to the world, people are going to start to infer values. And if you don't have your own, then they'll make them up. And then when you go hire people, it's really important that you have them and that you live by them and that you work by them and that your processes support them and that your branding supports them and that it's really clear to me what your values are. Okay. Make sense? Okay. All right. So now we're going to switch gears. Sorry, I'm single momming. I have kids who are writing me napkin notes. Okay, so we're going to switch gears. So that was a lot about like a very internal view. And the reason why I said we did that last time and it was a lot of fun is because I feel like a lot of times we come in and it's like we feed our brain with all this information. So it's like, here's what you should do. Here's what you should do. And I'm a little bit here to be like, actually, I think you got here because you got here. Like you were the one sitting in the seat. You came up with this idea. You signed up for this. You got admitted. Like all of this is because of you. And yes, we have head trash, and yes, we have insecurities, and yes, there's things that we have to work on. But like, honestly, like we're doing a pretty good job because we're here. And do we have lots of opportunity to grow? Yes. And if we open our mind to the fact that like maybe the stories we're telling ourselves aren't always true, we'll grow further faster. Right? So this is like, take care of person number one who's in this seat, and you will grow further faster than if you're figuring out like you got to do the scarcity mindset. You got to be like churn and burn. It should be miserable until I'm making tons of money and I can hire people to do all the stuff I hate. I think that's like the old way companies were built, and the new way is like, let's enjoy every single step of the way because the bus could hit us tomorrow. Right? And so if we're telling ourselves a story, let's challenge it and let's retell ourselves a story. And if we feel a certain way, then let's have a set of values. And again, if I'm feeling angsty or down or something, I sit with this card and I look at them and I say, where am I misaligned? Right? So again, give yourself that same gift. And again, every single day of my entrepreneurial journey has been a whole heck of a lot of fun, even if it's been hard or there's been things I didn't know or bumps that I had to figure out, because I went with this mindset of, I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything. I might as well figure it out. But when I have head trash, I process it. Okay. So now we're going to switch gears to be like, okay, Sarah, that's really great for helpful. So helpful, it's really great because I know how to now take care of the team that's here, but what if I want to build this new team, right? Like, what do I look for? How do I do it? I've never hired anybody, or I've hired a lot of people, but I've never built a company and I've never hired that way. So let's talk about some of the best practices around building out a team and things to think about with hiring. So who here has heard of the E-Myth? Has anyone read this book or heard about this? I'm seeing Stefanos, yes. Okay, so the E-Myth is essentially, the story is there's a woman who's really good at making pies. She makes the best pies. She takes her pies to all the places, and everybody's like, you should sell your pies. These are the best pies. So she's like, okay, so she starts a business and she starts selling her pies, but then she realizes that she has to now have a pie store. So she has to have a lease, and she has to figure out how to pay the lease, and she has to negotiate the lease. And now she has electricity bills, and she has to hire people to make the pies, and she has to have a website to sell the pies. And she has to think about ordering, and she has to think about inventory, and things go bad. And maybe she's not making as much money as she thought she'd make. And she spends a whole lot of time not making pies, right? So the thing that got us into the entrepreneurial journey is usually a passion for something, right? Like, I'm a painter, I'm a really good painter, so I'm gonna start a paint company, right? But now I have to do all the other things that it takes to have a paint company, and I'm actually maybe not painting very much anymore. So the E-Myth is this idea that there's actually kind of these three roles. So there's the technician. This is the thing doing the work. This is the woman making the pies, or the man making the pies. This is the painter painting, right? So this is usually what starts us in a business. I have a good idea. I have a good skill. I'm really good at somebody. So somebody always said I was helpful at this, so I'm going to do more of that. Okay. But then there's the manager. This is the person that focuses on the business. This is like the person who's like, well, if we did this, we could make more pies. We could ship this is the person that ships the website, the bills, all of the things, right? And then there's the entrepreneur who's like, wow, if we could only do this thing, we could make way more pies, right? We could, if we started ordering things this way, we could make way more money, right? We could think about selling pies not only at our pie shop, but at every New Seasons that's out there and market a choice. So we could be a pie distributor. So these jobs are always at tension with each other, right? Because the technician wants to bake pies. The manager wants to make sure bills are paid on time and that, like, you know, the businesses run well and that there's systems. And so they might want to invest in an ERP system and ordering, and the entrepreneur is thinking about what's the thing that's going to get us scale, growth. How are we going to become the world's best pie shop? So every entrepreneurial journey has a tension between these three things. And oftentimes they are like individual people who are playing these roles, and sometimes they are the same person. So does anyone here feel very confident which role they're in?
Doesn't, I don't have a direct yes answer to that, but this definitely hits hard as someone who would prefer to spend most of my time being the technician and finding dragged into the other parts.
And again, I brought on a business partner about a year into my journey because I found I just wanted to help people. And I've always been good at helping people. And I'm like, now I can just help people because I don't have to do all the other bureaucratic part about being a leader. I could just help. And then I found myself, oh my God, well, I have to build people and I have to have contracts and I have to have a website and I have to have business cards and a logo and all this sort of stuff. And then I'm like, now I'm not even helping people.
Yeah, crazy amount of baggage that comes along with
Right. And then I have people in my ear saying, well, like, you should take outside money and you should do this thing. Like, your idea is really great. Like, and so I'm like, I just want to help people. Who helps me help people? Right. And then I'm like, oh, a business partner. Because she does all the things that I don't want to do. And so I can help more people because she does all the stuff. So people because she's the manager. Right. And so again, as we think about this, be really thoughtful about the fact that there are all of these hats. And as Sam was expressing, he and I share the same journey, which is like, I was really annoyed by hat 2 and 3. Right. And there's a bunch of ways we can solve that. Right. A business partner was mine. Right. But that's not always the right choice. But again, the tension between these is important because sometimes we just want to bake pies. But some days we got to make sure that we're ordering the right ingredients. And some days we got to think about whether or not we want to scale or how we want to scale. So when we think about hiring, let's think about this. Okay, so culture. So people are like, how do I know how to hire the right people? Like, how do I know in the interview process? I even had one of my clients today who was like, I've made so many bad choices in the past about interviewing. How do I interview the right person? So here's how I think about culture with hiring. The first person sets the vision. So hire number 1, who's sitting in this room today, is the one that has the big idea and the vision and the conviction. Like Adama was saying, the vision to get to the thing. Even if people come in the side and say, oh, that will never work, or there's a million people. Everybody told me, oh, there's a million people who do what you do. And I'm like, cool. That means people need it. Like, I'll do it better. It's fine. I don't need to be gigantic, right? So the vision is the first person. Hire 2 and 3 needs to reflect the mission. So the mission, if the vision is where we're going, right? The mission is like what our role in it is, right? So if the hires 2 and 3 don't really support the mission, then hires 4 through 25 certainly will not, right? So it's really important the hire 1 is really focused on you continue to be the why person. This is the vision. Hires 2 and 3 oftentimes are sort of augmenting those operational skills. They're oftentimes, this is how we want to work. This is our role in this. And then 4 through 10 are values. So if you're like, I really care about fairness, and you hire people who are not fair, you don't care about fairness, right? And anybody below that will be like, nope, that's not a value. It's maybe on the wall, but it's not a value. And so those hires 4 through 10, like they say, hire slowly and fire quickly, right? So it's like, if I know somebody's not working, then I need to make sure that I make a different decision because, again, not to be unfair to them, but to be fair to them because they're not doing the thing that I have written on the wall in the way that I need it. So employee number 100 is going to look at them and be like, yeah, we don't actually care about that because they don't do it. Right? So the first 10 people we hire is the culture of the company. And beyond that, it scales. And so it's really, really important as you think about bringing on those first people that it is very much of the culture of what you're trying to drive as the owner, as the entrepreneur. Does that make sense? Does that feel true? In experiences you've had? Okay. So hiring is not a status symbol, it's a need. So I remember for so long, it was just me doing my thing and I didn't hire anybody. And I like had a couple people on Upwork who helped with things or Fiverr. the number one question I would get so often is like, oh, like, have you hired anyone? And I'm like, nope. And they're like, oh, okay. And it was like this thing where it was like, do I not have a legitimate thing because I don't have a hired person? And then I realized the more I talk to people, the more I'm involved in business stuff, there's this status symbol thing that goes with hiring. Once I hire, I'm legitimate, right? This means I'm a big deal. This means people believe in me. This means I have enough money coming in, I can support somebody. But it's actually not a status symbol. Like hiring a person is not a status symbol. This is something that you want to do if you need to do it. It adds complexity, it adds pressure, right? Yeah, it's support, but it's like, it changes the game. And so think about hiring as a need and not a status. And I see one of the biggest mistakes I see business owners, especially startups and founders, make is they hire too quickly. And because investors will believe in it more if they have they have a director of operations and they overweight the titles because everybody's a CEO now, right? And then the people are like, hey, so I looked on this website and like a director of operations is making like twice what I'm making. And it's like, well, because you're not really the director of operations. It's you and me in my garage, right? That's kind of like a operator, not a director of operations. So don't overweight the titles because you want people to feel good, and don't hire before you need to because it's not a status symbol, right? In fact, in some ways it's a headache. Hire thoughtfully, don't rush, give it attention. So when people are so busy that they can't possibly think about hiring is when they probably need to hire. So then what happens when I hire once I'm so busy that I can't possibly even think about reviewing resumes because I've been like packing boxes in my garage all day? I probably don't think as thoughtfully about who I'm hiring because I just feel desperate at this moment. Right? So I know this is a very fine line between you're so overwhelmed that you need to hire somebody because you need to like sort of, lessen the overwhelm because you're finally at a stage where you can support that. But then you need to pause and be thoughtful versus go fast at this time when you just need to go fast, right? So take a moment, pause, breathe, spend an entire day making the decision, interview people, think about it, because you will regret having moved too quickly to bring them on, but also too quickly to make the decision to bring them on. Hire based on need and fit, not friendships. So I work with a lot of small business owners, and the number one thing that we do when we first come in and work with them is usually unwinding some sort of familial relationship of work. Husband and wife, brothers, we have 2 sisters. And it's like when we get them behind closed doors, it's like, this is not working. Like I brought on my sister because I was desperate and she didn't like need me to pay her on time and she had time and like, but now I can't fire my sister. Like, so can you fire my sister? Right? And so again, but like this is very, very common where it's like, oh, I have a business. Like, and I get people reach out to me like all over being like, hey, are you hiring? Here's a person. And I'm like, I cannot hire everybody's friends or kids because then I might have to fire them. So I'll post a job and if they apply and they get the job, that's awesome. But like the whole favor hiring is really hard. And also it's lonely, right? To be an entrepreneur can be very lonely. And so sometimes when you're interviewing a bunch of people, the person that might rise to the top is like, they're so fun. I'd love to like be in the box room with them all day. Like that was so fun. What a fun interview. And then we step back and we're like, they don't have the experience. They don't have the pedigree. They were almost too fun that like maybe we won't get anything done, but also actually they were exactly like me. So of course they were fun because that like we were the same. So is that actually helpful? Right? So think about what you actually need and not a friend, because you can go meet with friends after work. And be careful about the familial hiring of my brother's going to help me out. Just have it work like a real job. Hey, for the next 3 months, why don't you work 10 hours a week? And then after 3 months, on this date, I'm going to put it on our calendar right now. We're going to talk about what's working, what's not working. Right? And it's an easy place to be like, hey, you've been wonderful and great. And also, I think I need to go hire somebody who has expertise in this now. Right? And that's the way sort of to manage the family friends hiring. But when you go out on the open market, don't hire a friend, hire an employee. So this one is a really, I see this very, very commonly. People are like, I have a pie business. We're super good at pies. The first thing I'm going to hire is another really good pie baker. What do you think's wrong with this?
I'll take a guess.
Yeah, please.
Especially at an early stage, going back to the terms you used earlier, you might not need 2 expert technicians, especially if they could end up stepping on each other's toes. And it would be better to distribute work to people that are more competent in specific areas.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think to replace you when you're first getting started, because you're wearing so many different hats, that you're like, hey, I'm a designer, but right now I'm handling HR. I don't want to handle HR. So it's kind of about being able to delegate and have those skills. People have those skills replace you, so you don't have to do that. So you can, narrow your focus and eventually take on the role that you're the best fit for at the company, if you're a founder like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so people are like, well, I'm a pie company. Of course I need another pie baker. Like, it just seems so logical, right? But then it's like, imagine if I hired somebody who did all the other stuff and I just got to make pies again.
Totally.
Like, that sounds way better. Instead of, I bring in a person and I see them in the kitchen all day and they're whistling and listening to music and making pies, and I'm like paying bills and talking to the landlord, and I'm like, I resent this person. And my job now sucks because they get to do all the things that I like doing about the pie business. And now I'm essentially like a glorified paper doer. And boy, I wish I would have hired a person to pay the bills and talk to the landlord, and I could be whistling in the kitchen and listening to songs and baking pies.
Especially if the person isn't good at that other stuff, but they're just good at baking the pies.
Yes. So I see this a lot because people that rise in business are experts in the thing, right? I have a client who's like he's got a big mushroom tincture business, and he's like, he knows everything about mushrooms. And he went through person after person to try to hire this production manager to run his manufacturing facility. And he just cycled through people, not the right fit, not the right fit, not the right fit. We finally started working together, and it's like, what are you looking for? And he essentially figured out that he was looking for himself. And so it's like, okay, how do we take all the other things off your plate so that you can do the job that you actually want, which is to be the production manager? Because none of them, they're all fine, right? This isn't a them problem. This is a you problem. They're just not you. And so you could cycle 20 people out of that job and they're never going to have what you need because you actually want that job and you want somebody else to do the other jobs. So instead, we brought in people to do all the other jobs, and he spends time listening to music on the manufacturing floor, doing innovation within tinctures, and he's super happy, even though he's the CEO. And you imagine CEOs with their legs up in a suit in the office. That's not always the case. It doesn't have to be the case, right? Because if you put your legs up and you're managing something, it's usually paperwork. Okay. No matter the product or service, you're in the people business. So I talk to a lot of people and they're like, oh, Sarah, it's super cool what you do, but like, it seems like kind of HR adjacent and we're not really in the people business. And I'm like, like, you may be an HVAC company, but like, what happens to your company if your people that are installing HVAC stop showing up to work on time? And what happens if they go to the competitor instead of staying at your company? So like, I know you think you're in the HVAC business, but you're actually in the people business because you're about keeping people happy, keeping them working for you, keeping them showing up and doing a good job at their job, right? And you're into keeping the clients happy, who are also mostly people, unless you're selling to bots, right? So it's like, we're all in the people business. And I hate the word HR because it sort of, to me, I work for big corporate companies, so it's sort of synonymous with don't get sued. Right? And here's a spreadsheet, or here's a worksheet that's like largely not helpful. And so, but the thing is like, this isn't HR, this is people, this is leadership, this is development, this is worth, this is safety. These are all the things that like we as humans need. And so we're all in the people business. So for you, if you're like, oh, like, we're a X product, so I don't need to think about that. Like, you do need to think about that, because if you want people to show up to work every day, you better think about yourself as being in the people business. Okay, and the last one, because again, you're here and a lot of speakers come in and gave you a lot of advice. And we even heard the difference in advice, right? What Jill said is different than what Nick or whoever presented last time said. And they're both right? Because we all are entitled to opinions and thoughts based on our experiences. So at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of people who are like, well, you should do this or you shouldn't do this. And trust your instincts, because the instincts that you have got you here. And there's a lot of people who want to build businesses, but there's a lot fewer people sitting in this room today. Right? And so again, you already took the action to get here. And so that's already 8 steps further than people who are like, it'd be super cool to build a business someday. So trust your instincts. Right? If you think you're ready to hire, you're ready to hire. If you think you're not ready to hire, you're not ready to hire. If you think you don't know and you need to seek counsel, seek counsel. Right? And the cohorts like this is a really beautiful built-in group for you guys of people who, a lot of you share values, right? A lot of you share head trash. And a lot of you are in the same stage of building a company. And it's really great to be able to pick up the phone and like just get a different person's perspective, but know when to trust your instinct. Okay, so those are some of the lessons that I've learned in hiring. Any questions before I jump into, okay, so hiring can mean different things. So we can talk about the dimensions of how we can hire. How do we augment our team? How do we build out capacity with maybe not a traditional hiring model? Is there any questions or any comments before I move to this section?
I have some a question or a comment.
Yeah.
When I started my startup, we were 2, and then 2 other friends wanted to join, so they joined. At some point, we were 4. Now 4, person working together. We actually work together to submit an application, but I realized that each of those 4 the 4 of us, we work differently. So at the beginning, it was really, really hard to like coordinate. The group work, it was hard until the end, to be honest. And then so after the application, now the other 2, they couldn't continue with us, and then me and my co-founder, we just went back. And like, how do we really address that? Like, we might have the same value, we might, a lot of things might be the same, but it was really, really hard to work together because some people want to work on the canvas, some people want to work on this way, some people like, work this way. That was kind of like a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always tell people, before you go into business with somebody, like treat it like a marriage, right? You can go on a first date and very few people are like, we should get married. Right? So you have a conversation, you're like, oh, we have a like similarity around a business. We're both interested in this idea. Then it's like, okay, let's date a little bit more. How do you work? What would you think about if you were in charge? What would you like? So we're not adding people to the company. We're exploring what adding them looks like. And Adama, that's how you prevent yourself from getting sometimes in those situations where you kind of already know what you're signing up for. But if you've already gotten into that situation and it's like everybody's really different, well, here's the reality is we are all super different. And in order to figure out how to work well together, we have to like lay it out on the table. I'm really frustrated. I'm having a really hard time. This isn't really working. Right? And then let's have a norms conversation. Right? Shared values. What matters? What matters to each of us? Because if somebody's here for competitive reasons and somebody's here for money and somebody's here because they're passionate about saving the world, like we're going to do this, but there is a such thing as healthy friction. I'll tell you about my business partner. I'm an ideas person. I have 1,000 ideas a minute. Not all of them are good. Most of them are bad. My business partner, she's like almost a 30-year corporate strategy finance. She's the CFO. She's highly operational. She has a process for everything. Her brain works like linear and mine's like concentric circles that sometimes overlap. So do you think we have friction? Yeah, because I'm ideating, she's taking notes and I see her like sweating because she immediately goes to this place of like, I have to do this. Like Sarah thinks that this is possible and this is crazy. But I'm just like, oh no, like I'm not doing any of this. I'm just talking about it. right? So we have to talk about the fact that like when I'm ideating, I'm not expecting her to go deliver on those things, right? So I'm just ideating. So she'll put her pencil down and be like, we're just ideating. And I'm like, yep. And then we'll realign before the meeting goes and so like we have to talk about those things, because if not, every meeting we were in, I was like, that was awesome. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. And I'm like, why are you so stressed? You're so stressed all the time. Like, this is great. And she's like, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing this to you. So that we talk about it where it's like, here's my expectations leaving that meeting, is like, it was awesome. And if there's an action item, we talk about it, right? So like, we're having those types of conversations all the time. So Dama, getting everybody in the room and being like, what matters to us? Why are we here? Right? Like, what's our vision for the future? Where do we have tension? What are our preferences? How do we like to work? Right? And then meeting in those places instead of sort of not talking about it and then talking behind people's backs. That's where fractured relationships always come from. So we talk about it. We put it on the table. We say, hey, I'm feeling a little frustrated. Let's just talk about it. I think you're frustrated too. Like, how do we make this work? How do we work? Let's all talk about what our preferences are. And if you are going to go the route of business partner, I always say plan for the worst. Plan that you don't talk anymore. You hate each other's guts. You want to go after each other's firstborns. Even though like you can't imagine getting there because you're willing to go into business with that person, but like all the paperwork, everything is like if it were not going to work. Because it's a lot harder to do that. I see so many business owners who have to come back and do that later. And it's a lot harder than just getting it done from the beginning. Okay, any other questions or thoughts before we jump to this last section?
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so beyond traditional hiring. So the first one is partnership. So I was like, I'm kind of sick of the corporate thing because I have to go everywhere with everyone. If you know anything about Nike, it's heavily matrix. So I always had 15 bosses and, you know, a leadership team that was highly matrix. And I was like, I just kind of want to be able to like make my own decisions and not have anyone tell me what to do or anything. And so the idea of being a solopreneur was really interesting to me. I was like, gosh, I've always, and I had, you know, my last job at Nike had about 100 people in my organization. So it's like, I kind of like don't do the work anymore. I kind of want to learn how to not be irrelevant in today's world. Like I'd like to like build something again or figure something out. So I had so much fun getting my hands dirty on everything. And I learned how to build a website and I learned how to build a logo and I learned how all these things that like I've never done before. And it was so fun. But then I hit this point where I'm like, I kind of miss my people. Like I'd always had teams. Like I was always somebody like, you know, it's like, man, I'm so excited about the things. And who do I call? My husband or my mom? And it's like, what if I had that to share with somebody else? And so business partnerships started to become more attractive to me because I'm like, I really want to be in it with somebody, like the highs and the lows. And I had done my thing by myself for a while. And I was like, I don't want people that show up to work every day looking at me. I want somebody who like is my equal and my partner. And so again, I had a lot of experience working with my partner, Jen. And so I knew it was a really good fit, but we like also tried it and we did all the paperwork and we're like, here's what it looks like. And on the worst day, here's what it looks like. So for you, if you know business partnership is the right thing for you, it's because you want an equal. You want somebody to challenge you. You want somebody who augments you with the thing that you know you're not good at. And I don't want to get good at running a business. I want to get good at being a practitioner and let her run the business. But I can trust her because I know that she's in the business too, right? And so business partnership might be the right way to go. Whereas a lot of people are like, well, but I don't want to share the profits. And what I told her is I said, if you come in, I think we can do more together than I can do by myself. And I get to do the work that I love, which is worth something to me, even if I don't make the same amount of money without a business partner, right? So if you think about it as a growth thing, can you do more with somebody else because they augment your skills or they're in it with you, or it's just more fun? Okay, fractional roles. So this is one where it's like, I think everybody's a fractional something these days. So this is becoming more common. But a couple of years ago when I first left, this was like kind of a new concept where people were hiring pieces of people. And this is a really, really, really solid move because sometimes you need a leader who has a lot of experience doing a thing. You might need a really like senior supply chain person who's like knows all aspects of supply chain. But you can't afford a senior supply chain person, but you can afford a couple hours of one. And that's going to be way better than a bunch of hours of somebody who's never done it before, who's going to work their way through figuring it out, make a couple of mistakes, get the wrong system, get the one in. And again, so sometimes if you need higher level guidance, higher level guidance and just do it at a minimal portion of their time. And so I think that there's something that people love a staff meeting where they come into work and everybody works for them. But like a fractional thing is just as effective, if not more as effective as an employee, but it's you get a higher level skill set for a smaller period of time, which I would highly recommend for certain functions. People waste a lot of money on inexperienced marketing people. They waste a lot of money on inexperienced operators. HR is another one. Lots of people who are going to like figure out, somebody can come in and tell you what the Oregon laws are that are going to not get you in trouble. And it's a couple of hours, right? So consider fractional as a really positive way to build out your team. And again, I have folks that are fractional and when they show up and work with us, it's like they're on the team. Even though I know that they have other clients, but we get what we need and we pay for what we need. And it's been a really awesome way to expand some of the capabilities within our team. Scoped or contract work. So this is where people are really excited to hire your team, but also sometimes you just need to scope out a contract. I need somebody to come in and do this thing. And so again, that's still hiring. And so make sure you're doing the same vetting. You're making sure that they are aligned with the values and all the things, because it's still hiring. It's just not traditional hiring. I'm hiring a person to do a thing instead of hiring them and paying them to breathe. Right? So this is a really good way to test people too. I've hired people on a contract that then I've brought in full time because it's a good way to test people. And it's a good way to figure out if it's a fit. And it's also a good way to like also realize there was one person that I didn't realize that we needed the thing until they came in and did the thing. And I had scoped it really small and it kept growing. And then I was like, actually, I think we just need this. And so then it turned into a role. Okay, so before I sort of summarize, any questions, thoughts around the non-traditional? So obviously the traditional would be like a W-2 employee, whether that's full-time or part-time. But those are three kind of like non-traditional ways to think about hiring. Yes, Julian.
Where do you go about finding people like that? Since
Yeah,
that
so
wouldn't be a conventional one hand.
yeah, so a lot of times they are exist on Upwork and Fiverr, but they're not the people that are $3 an hour in Indonesia. They're people that might be $150 an hour or $200 an hour, and they usually will say fractional something. There's also so many people here locally, and a lot of the business groups have names. And again, Jill, I don't know if that's something that you guys have or share, but people that you know that are fractional business providers. Again, if any of you guys have needs, feel free to email me and I can connect you to the people that I know. I know quite a few people that do this. And sometimes really specialty things, like I connected one of my clients with somebody who like had a lot of experience rolling out ERP systems. Somebody who's like a operational excellence Six Sigma black belt who helps with like manufacturing. So sometimes they're really specific and sometimes they're more like a fractional COO or a fractional CFO. But I'm happy to be a resource to connect if you're into that. But Fiverr, Upwork, these places, posting on LinkedIn and saying, hey, does anyone know anyone who's a fractional CFO? I'm looking for somebody to do these types of things. And usually they have different levels of packages and pricing. So they'll be kind of like, there's the 2-hour a month one, and then there's the 10-hour a month one, or there's the we do these services for you. So not sure that answered the question, Julian.
Yeah.
What else? Any other questions with this non-traditional hires? Is anyone other
Yeah.
than, oh, Nick, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I just took forever to like unmute myself. For the fractional, what kind of equity makes sense? Obviously, it's something fractional, I guess, but like realistically, like I guess is it like a percentage of whatever a 40-hour week is or whatever their annual commitment is, and then like if you're going to give them 1% as a FTE, then you would, but they're only going to work half time, then that's like half of that, for example. I guess answer my own question. You're welcome.
Yeah. And so
Thank
so some of these people they'll work for equity, and some of these people you'll need to pay them.
Yeah.
Right? But the
Right.
people that work for equity, again, it's like, how badly do you need their thing? And I'm a value-oriented person. So whenever I bid work out, I usually bid it out not by hour. And again, our model isn't pricing by hour, because to me it's about value. And so I always tell people, my goal for everybody that I give work to is for you to make the most money you can per hour, but that's your responsibility. So I'm going to tell you what it's worth for me to have the thing. And then you can use AI all day, and as long as what comes back is awesome, then like, cool. I don't care if it takes you 2 minutes or 25 minutes, but I just want what I want, and this is what I'm willing to pay for. And so, Nick, that same analogy would be true, which is like, I know that the business could grow to X if I had somebody who understood operational excellence and manufacturing, and I don't. And I could read all the books, but it will take me a lot of time, and it'll take me away from baking pies. And so I would be willing to pay X for somebody who does that. Now I go talk to the expert, and I'm like, here's what I need. And they're like, great, that will be 10 hours a week. It's like, okay, well, I was willing to give you 50-50 equity, but 10 hours a week, now it feels a little like, are we really in this together? And it's a conversation.
Cool. Nice. Thanks.
And I always say, like, have the hard conversations up front. The natural course in life is to be unconfrontational. We are addicted, especially Americans, we're addicted to comfort, right? So we want the closest parking spot because we don't want to walk, and we want air conditioning in every room because we don't want to sweat, right? We want a car to be able to drive because we don't want to walk to the train and wait for the train, right? So we have like a high degree of comfort loving. And so how that shows up in relationships is we don't like conflict, because we're addicted to comfort, right? So my point to you is have hard conversations at the beginning, or else the conversations will be really hard later on. So
Fair.
Nick, in that conversation, if you're like, I don't think I can give you what you're looking for, it's like, we better be really honest up front, versus, all right, I'll do it because I'm desperate. And then every day that goes by, I resent that person because I'm like, I'm working all the time and you're barely working. Right? But it's like, well, but maybe I know something that's worth a lot of money. And so maybe it's not about equal work. Maybe it's about equal contribution. Maybe my thing doesn't need as many hours as your thing.
Hmm.
Right? But like, we're not talking about it, and you start to resent me, and then you're like, blow up the things, and now we are fighting in court because we didn't need to. So have the conversations and set the tone up front, because hard conversations get harder.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll kind of run through the pieces that we're taking away from tonight, and then I'll open it up for any questions. You can ask me anything about my journey, my experience, or building a team. Happy to answer what I know. So lessons learned. So there's only one person sitting in this chair tonight. That's your team. So, and again, some of you might have other folks, but like, if you're sort of in the place in your business where it's you have a team. Take care of them. So I remember my first job, I was at a work happier, and I said, oh, I'll stop working all the time once I have a family, because I worked all the time. My first job out of college. My husband and my puppy, my then boyfriend, now husband, was sitting at the table, and he goes, you do have a family. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, kids, but I was like, of course I have family. And I'm like, if I don't change now, I'm never going to change, because I clearly have a puppy and a wonderful, loving husband. And I'm like, I don't have a family. Like, I'll work. You got to move up. Right. So again, take care of yourself, because you won't just one night change unless you intentionally are like, at that moment, that was a real turning point for me, because I was like, wow, I don't think I'm living to my values. I think I've drank a little too much corporate Kool-Aid, and I need to get back in touch with the things that are mattering to me, because I would be more sad if they weren't sitting there with me than if I wasn't doing as well in my job as I was. Okay, so take care of number one. Culture is built through our actions. So ensure you put wind in the sails of the right things. So I cannot tell you the number of times where people have something that happen and they don't do anything about it. They have somebody say something and they're like, ooh, I wouldn't have said that, but they don't deal with it. And so if you don't nip that stuff in the bud very early on, people assume that it's okay. And then whatever you say out of your mouth, everybody will look and be like, that's not what really happens. That's not real. Right? So like actions, put wind in the sails of the stuff that you want, anchor the stuff that you don't. And over time, the culture will be bigger than you and it will sort of carry that forward. But if you let it get out of control in the beginning, in the first 10 hires, it will be very, very hard to get it back. And you will spend lots and lots of money by having companies like us come in and fix it all for you. Okay, you're in control of the way that you see the world, the stories you tell, the values you hold. That's where confidence is built and nurtured. So there's no more confidence that's going to come from the 11th book you've read about the subject, right? Or the 25th class you've taken about the thing. But like at some point in time, it's like we got to do this. We got to understand what story we're telling and then what we actually value, and we just got to march forward. So confidence comes when we stay aligned to those two things, not when we know more. Leverage your resources, not from a place of insecurity, but from a place of confidence. The most confident people I know say they don't know. And this is one of those things where I always tell people, like, everybody here is a leader, whether you manage people or not, you're a leader, right? Even if you have a day job outside of this. And so the most confident people that I know, the best leaders that I know, are growing things instead of knowing things. Right? So instead of being like, I'm so awesome, look at me, I'm in charge, you're like, hey, like AI, holy smokes. Like none of us know. And like, oh my God, the pandemic, like I was leading a huge team during the pandemic and I'm like, I became a remote leader overnight and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Right? But I showed up to the team meeting and I was like, I've never had a remote team before. So we're going to figure it out. I'm going to do some things wrong. And you're going to be like, I'm super confused, and you're going to come and you're going to talk to me, right? So like I address them like real people, and I'm a real person. I'm like, I don't have all the answers. So if somebody's like, God, how did you get to where you got to? I'm like, I don't know. Fail upward, right? But it's better than if I'm sitting here being like, I know everything about AI and you better figure it out because you're behind the curve. And like, if you don't get this done by Friday, you're going to lose your job, right? Which of those would you rather work for? So be the one that you'd rather work for. Be the one that's like, hey, I know I'm building a business and I know I've done this thing, but like, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what this is. Can somebody help me? Right? So you're never too big to ask for help. Build what you need and not what you think you need or what other people need. So like, stay on track. I always say, like, you know, the horses that go by with the carriage and they have those blinders on. Like, blinders on. It doesn't matter what anybody else in this group is doing. Like, listen, be happy for them, cry with them, support them, but like, then do the thing that's going to work for you. Right? So a lot of noise in the world, just stay focused. All right, that's what I have for you. So I think, Jill, we have a little bit of time if people have a couple of questions, but if not, I will turn it back to Jill. Yes, Lori. Oh, that was clapping.
No questions for Sarah?
I guess I just want to say thank you. I feel like at least for me, there was a lot of really good mindset work that happened. And I feel like you have a lot of expertise around that. And it's really helpful. And I can already tell that I'm going to benefit a lot from that in my business.
Thank you, Eric. Really glad to hear that.
I can tell you lead teams. You do a good job, Sarah. Good energy.
Well, I know when they usually put me at the after lunch slot. So I do a lot of presenting and workshops and I always get the slot after lunch, and you know that's because you're energetic. So that's like, I'm here because you're all really full and I got to keep you. So I'm like this, you know, the 6 p.m. slot feels like exactly where I belong. So hopefully you all stayed awake. I'm super excited for you. Again, like Sarah@bettermeant.co is my email. If there's ever anything, please feel free to reach out. I can connect you to the people that I know, help in your way. Because the thing that I found in entrepreneurial land is it's not competitive, it's supportive. Whereas corporate America was like dog eat dog. I have found the entrepreneur world, even if we do all the same things, like everybody's like, how can I help? What can I do? So my email box is open. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Trusty.
I just had one question for you. What piece of advice you would give us as we are in different stages of our startup journey that for you that would fundamentally change how you lead or live, but something that could help us in our journey?
Yeah, so I feel like being real. So like everybody will ask you like, oh, how's it going? And you'd be like, it's great, like we're crushing it. Like, and I think for me, and again, this is like obviously coming from a 7, is like sometimes it's super hard and sometimes you don't have the answer and sometimes it sucks. And that's cool because it's all part of the journey. Right. And so, but if you always feel like you have to have a shining answer for people and be like, oh, it's great, it's going exactly as planned. I created a 3-year plan and we're like totally on. And so I think just be real, because I think when you talk to other entrepreneurs, like the more real we can all be, the more real it all gets. And then the more people actually sign up and do your thing or buy your product because it's real. And I think in today's world, people are just craving authenticity. And I think like it's really easy. I mean, I get 25 of the exact same emails in my inbox every single day. And I'm like, they all bought the same internet course and they all use the same script and they all are sending me the same thing. And I'm on some email list that I all of a sudden need bookkeeping services today or something. But the reality is like, I'm like, they're so generic and they lack any authenticity that I would never, ever respond. Every once in a while I get a cold outreach about something and they like made an effort and they were like, oh, I saw your brother went to Cornell. And I'm like, all right, I don't know how you figured that out, but like, yeah, he did. And it's like, at least I'm entertaining who the person is because it was like authentic and real. And I could tell somebody put some work into it versus some generic bot. And so I would say, just be real. And that's on the good days, that's on the hard days, that's on the bad days. But find a community. So if it's folks here, if it's another community, yeah, I'm sure it was. Find people because it can be lonely. If anybody just saw my child just crawl in here. It's okay, honey.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would just say be real, be authentic. I think people are really looking for that right now.
Thank you.
I'll leave you with the paper airplane that was just made by my 8-year-old.
Oh, cute.
All right, well, thank you. And again, good luck. Like I said, you're 10 steps ahead of most people because you're here learning about this and you have an idea and you're driving it forward. So congratulations and let me know. I'll send me a cold outreach email as long as you mention that my brother went to Cornell. I'll probably buy it. Yeah, good luck.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, bye guys. Oh, here, hold on.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. I don't know if you guys want to cover anything, have any questions about next week. The floor is open. No, you're all ready to present next week? Cool.
Getting ready.
Try.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm ready, but I think that I'm curious. It's going to be a mock pitch. Some of us are at different stages. I guess my thought process is just try and do the best that we can. It's challenging because I feel like even in this boot camp and through investors or customers or other people, I'm getting like different requests all the time. So managing all of those at the same time is quite challenging. But we'll try to be as ready as possible. Is that like a reasonable expectation for this? I think we're all,
Absolutely.
like, at different stages too. So
Of course. Some people come with or without a deck, clip just notes on presentation cards. I've seen that. This is your journey and you're all adults, so you learn at your own pace.
Yes. I'm currently in California, so I'm thinking about how I'm gonna get to Portland next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you coming up just for that?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
And also, I guess this is the last class, right? Today.
Yes.
Or do you have class on Monday?
Oh, actually, wait, do you? Let me see.
No, I don't think so. It's a
Oh,
holiday too.
Monday's
It's
holiday.
Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty cool. Yeah, man, it's like, are we, can we maybe create a group or something so we can keep this group going if we need, to exchange resources and stay in touch, and
Absolutely. I create a group for you all on Zoho. It's kind of like, well, when you log into it, it kind of looks like a LinkedIn, Facebook. There's a feed. You'll see other members in there. There's not a lot of activity just because we started it the last cohort, so like 6 months ago, and only a few people engaged, but you all have access to it, and I'll get you guys set up and ready next week so you can all keep in touch.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
anybody else, have alternative things like Discord or maybe Slack or
Adama, are you on? I think George might have done it with the people that were in person the first night, but there was an email thread going, so you got to get on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was not there.
Why don't you do?
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? If everyone
Right.
puts their email in the chat, I'll copy them and then I'll just send out a group email. I think some of us are thinking about trying to get together on Saturday morning to practice our pitches or whatever. And if anyone wants to come join,
Well, that's
please
great.
feel free. Okay.
So it's you shouldn't, right? Your product. You mentioned last time that you are seeking architect as your customer for your customer interview, right? If I recall.
Who are you talking to, Adama?
Like Julien?
Julian?
So last time you said that you are seeking architect to do customer interview.
Oh, yeah, I had an app idea. Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Are you building a frame for Windows, maybe?
Oh, I'm not looking for, well, I guess an architect would be one of my users or
Okay.
persona for what I'm doing. Yeah.
Probably getting that wrong. So never mind then.
No problem.
All right, everyone. George, did you get the emails in the chat?
I'm got MY Extreme. That's it. Yeah, I've got everyone. Thank you.
Nick, when you first introduced your company, I thought it was Nick Stream, Nick apostrophe S.
Yeah, it's like more like the makeup company or the goddess of sleep and dreams. Correct me,
Nick
Lori.
and Lori, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured it was
Yeah, I didn't actually name it. It just happens to sound a lot like my name. Oh, you're muted, Lori. Maybe the audio is off. No, maybe.
All right, thank you, everyone. Carrie will follow up with decks and whatever else you may need to prepare for next week. But we're always here if you have questions.
Cool.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.
have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.